OMG. I don't know why they doing that. Why they doing welcome that to back. Let your light shine among men. They might glorify your Father in heaven. My brother sent me a video, and I'm listening to it. I wanted to be a preacher when I was 6, but I didn't know the price I had to pay. Much wisdom, much grief, much sorrow. Ain't no other way you don't get it. But if you could just go through the fire, so I will pause this video. You take the jury to the pawn shop. Right, and I will return to that later. So I hope y'all had a really good break. I am reading the book Jacqueline Woodson. It's called Brown Girl Dreaming. So I left off on page 240, so I'm going to pick up there where I left off, and then the goal is to finish, right? So I'm going to finish this book. So it's about 100 and something more pages. Let's see, 128. Okay. Yeah, about that much. Yep. All right. So I am on page 240. I hope you guys had a really good break. I'm like really pushing today. Oh my goodness. So a little bit of information about Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline Woodson is an African-American female. She is an author, and she has written many, many books that have been awarded. And a lot of people in college like study her in literature as one of the African-American authors that we kind of look to. And I've read a couple of her books, and I found that her style of writing is pretty much the same in each book. Like I haven't come across a book that's written differently. Like she usually talks about her history. And one of the books that I really like is called Showway, and it's by Jacqueline Woodson. And I love the illustrations in that book. And I think it's written beautifully. And again, the illustrations are so beautiful. And that was the first time I've actually read one of Jacqueline Woodson's book was when I read Showway. And I was like, oh, she's so awesome. I love her. I haven't read anything like this ever. And so like now I'm starting to read like more of her books, and I'm starting to find that they're all kind of the same. So it's not as exciting. I think like each is told differently. Like in the beginning of this one, it was more like a poem, but now it's just like short, like memoirs, like short stories almost. The one with Showway, it still tells her story in like a timeline, and then it even has like pictures that goes back in time and that moves through time. So that was incredibly written. The illustrations are just beyond, like, I was like, this is so cool, because you get to like see this person grow up and go through these stages. And then like even when she's older, it kind of like goes beyond, and I was just like, wow, like this is so great. So I just fell in love with Jacqueline, but now I'm reading more of her books. So this is one of them. It's a little different. It doesn't have illustrations like the other one, and it tells a lot about her story and her history. But I am on page 240, and this is Far Rockaway. Robert only stays long enough for my mother to thank him for buying our tickets, for getting us home. He does a fancy turn on his heels, aims 2 pointer fingers at us, says, I'll catch up with all of you later. We tell him that he has to come back soon, remind him of all the stuff he's promised us, trip to Coney Islands and Police Days, amusement park, and Chrissy doll. With hair that grows, a Tokyo toy, Gulliver's Travels candy. He says he won't forget, ask us if he's a man of his word, and everyone except my brother nods. Hard not to miss my mother's eyebrows, giving her baby brother a look. Pressing her lips together, once in the middle of the night, 2 policemen knocked on the door asking for Robert Leon Irby, but my uncle wasn't there. So now my mother takes a breath and says, "Stay safe," says, "Don't get in trouble out there, Robert." He gives her a hug and promises he won't. And then he is gone. Fresh air. When I get back to Brooklyn, Maria isn't there. She's gone upstate, staying with a family. Her mother tells me that has a pool. Then her mother puts a plate of food in front of me, tells me how much she knows I love her rice and chicken. When Maria returns, she is tan and wearing a new short set. Everything about her seems different. I stayed with white people, she tells me. Rich white people. The air upstate is different. It doesn't smell like anything. She hands me a piece of bubble gum with "bubble yum" in bright letters. This is what they chew up there. The town was called Schenectady. So I want to just type this name. So I'm having some trouble with names. I'll spell it for you. It's spelled Schenectady. And then I pronounced it Schenectady. If you know how to pronounce it, put it in the chat. All right, so all the rest of the summer, Maria and I buy only bubble yum below. Huge bubbles while I make her tell her story after story about a white family in Schenectady. They kept saying I was poor and trying to give me stuff, Maria says. I had to keep telling them it's not poor where we live. Next summer, I say, you should come down south. It's different here. And Maria promises she will. On the sidewalk, we draw hopscotch games that we play using chipped pieces of slate chalk. Maria and Jackie's best friend, forever, wherever, there is smooth stone. Write it so many times that it's hard to walk on our side of the street without looking down and seeing us there. PS 106 haiku. Jacqueline Woodson. I'm finally in 4th grade. It's raining outside. Lesson from Langston. I love my friend. He went away from me. There's nothing more to say. The poem ends, soft as it begins. I love my friend. Langston Hughes. I love my friend and still do. When we play games, we laugh. I hope she never goes away from me because I love my friend. Jackie Woodson. So in this one, it looks like Jacqueline Woodson, she gave her short name, Jackie Woodson. She kind of mimicked the poem from Langston Hughes. Now, if you guys know Langston Hughes, he was, I think he was a singer, like a musician. And in this case, he wrote a poem. And so Jackie Woodson, Jacqueline, followed his steps, and she kind of have her own words, but it's the same kind of feel. Like the poem is kind of the same. So that was hers. Learning from Langston. So that was the name of this. So she learned from Langston. Okay. The next one is The Selfish Giant. In the story of The Selfish Giant, a little boy hugs a giant who has never been hugged before. The giant falls in love with the boy, but then one day the boy disappears. He has scars on his hands and his feet, just like Jesus. The giant dies and goes to paradise. The first time my teacher reads the story to the class, I cry all afternoon, and I am still crying when my mother gets home from work that evening. She doesn't understand why. I want to hear such a sad story again and again, but takes me to the library around the corner when I beg and helps me find the book to borrow, The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. I read the story again and again. Like the giant, I too fall in love with the Jesus boy. There is something so sweet about him. I want to be his friend. Then one day, my teacher asked me to come up in front to read out loud, but I don't need to bring the book with me. The story of the selfish giant is in my head now, living there, remembered. Every afternoon, as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant garden. I tell the class the whole story, flowing out of me right up to the end, when the boy says, "These are the wounds of love. You let me play once in your garden. Today, you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." How did I do that? My classmates asked. How did you memorize all those words? But I just shrugged, not knowing what to say. How can I explain to anyone that stories are like air to me? I breathe them in and let them out over and over again. Brilliant, my teacher says, smiling. Jackie, that was absolutely beautiful. And I know now, words are my Galileo, words are my brilliance. The butterfly poems. No one believes me when I tell them I am writing a book about butterflies, even though they see me in the Childcraft encyclopedia, heavy on my lap, open to the pages where the monarch, painted lady, giant, swallowtail, and queen butterflies live, even one called a buckeye. When I write the first words, wing of a butterfly whisper, no one believes, no one believes a whole book could ever come from something as simple as butterflies. And don't even, my brother says, live that long. But my paper, things can live forever on paper. A butterfly never dies. Okay, so I'm having a moment, and it's because Jacqueline, she's in the 4th grade, so she's growing up. But there was a time where she was not able to write the letter J. And then there was a time she couldn't write her whole name. And then there was a time she wasn't able to write her name in cursive. She had trouble writing the Q. And she's growing up. And she's writing poetry. She's following Langston Hughes. She's reading books. And her sister was the one that's like so brilliant. But Jacqueline is finding her brilliance. She's finding what she's good at. And so I'm happy for her. So it's a good ending, right? Okay. But on paper, things can live forever. On paper, a butterfly never dies. 6 minutes. The sisters in the Kingdom Hall get 6 minutes to be on stage in pairs or threes, but never alone. We have to write skits where we are visiting another sister or maybe a non-believer. Sometimes the play takes place at their pretend kitchen table, and sometimes we are in the pretend living room. But in real life, we are just in folding chairs sitting on the Kingdom Hall stage. The first time I have to give my talk, I ask if I can write it myself without anyone helping. There are horses and cows in my story, even though the main point is supposed to be the story of the resurrection. Say, for instance, I write, we have a cow and a horse that we love. Is death the end of life for those animals? When my mother reads those lines, she shakes her head. You're getting away from the topic, she says. You have to take the animals out of it. Get it right, to the point. Start with people. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with the fabulous, more interesting part of my story, where the horses and cows start speaking to me. and to each other. How, even though they are old and won't live much longer, they aren't afraid. You only have 6 minutes, my mother says. And no, you can't get up and walk across the stage to make your point. You talk. Your talk has to be given sitting down. So I start again, rewriting. Good afternoon, sister. I'm here to bring you some good news today. Did you know God's word is absolute? If we turn to John chapter 5, verses 28 and 29, promising myself there'll come a time when I can use the rest of my story and stand when I tell it and give myself and houses and my cows a whole lot more time than 6 minutes. So I want to stop right there because I've taken a course in college, and this was multicultural children's literature. And so we had like a discussion where we would talk about how books are written and how they're so critical about the words that are in the book and like how it's written and what message that you're trying to convey. So there's like standards, and it's for like our protection, for like children's protection, making sure that the books are age appropriate. And again, just monitoring like what we're trying to get across to the children. And so they're very strict, and they have like these rules that you have to follow. And so what Jacqueline is saying here in the book, it's a lot similar to that, where she is writing this skit and she wants to make it her own, but they're like, we have this set way of it being told. And so they want to like essentially tell her how to tell her story. So she's not able to really have the freedom to tell it exactly how she wants to. She has to monitor it and kind of tweak it and change it so it can fit what they're looking for. And so in real life, it's kind of like that, where, you know, and you could argue that like it's for the good, again, for protection. And then it's just like a certain standard. Like they want it to sell. They want to make money. You know, you again, you don't want to offend people. And it's just like a lot like to think about your audience and all of that. So that's interesting though. I just wanted to point that out real quick. The next one is first book. So there are 7 of them. Haikus mostly, but rhyming ones too. Not enough for a real book until I cut each page into a small square, staple the squares together, write one poem on each page, Butterflies by Jacqueline Woodson on the front. The butterfly book complete now. John Bargain Store. Down Knickerbocker Avenue is where everyone on the block goes to shop. There's a pizzeria if you are hungry. 75 cents a slice. There's an ice cream shop where cones cost $0.25. There are Fabco shoes stores and a beauty parlor at Woolworth's, 5 and a dime, and a John's bargain store. For a long time, I don't put one foot inside Woolworth. They won't let Black people eat at their lunch counters in Greenville, I told Maria. No way are they getting my money. So instead, Maria and I go to John's bargain store, where 3 t-shirts cost $1. We buy them in pale pink, yellow, and baby blue. Each night, we make a plan. Wear your yellow one tomorrow, Maria says. I'll wear mine. And I'll wear mine. All year long, we dress alike, walking up and down Madison Street, waiting for someone to say, "Are you guys cousins?" And we smile and say, "Can't you tell from looking at us?" I like this part because Maria is Spanish and Jacqueline is African American, and they're really good friends, and they learn from each other, and they're dressing alike. So I think that's kind of cool. And they're waiting for someone to acknowledge their similarities and to say, "Are you guys cousins?" So that's kind of cute. I like that. So the next one is New Girl. Then one day, a new girl moves in next door, tells us her name is Diana, and becomes me and Maria's second best friend in the whole world. And even though Maria's mother and Diana's mother in Puerto Rico, Maria promises that doesn't make Diana más mejor amiga, a better friend. But some days when it's raining and mama won't let me go outside, I see them on the block, their fingers laced together, heading around the corner to the bodega for candy. Those days, the world feels as gray and cold as it really is. And it's hard not to believe the new girl isn't más mayor than me. Hard not to believe. My days as Maria's best friend forever and ever, amen, are counted. Pastels and Pernil. When Maria's brother Carlos gets baptized, he is just a tiny baby in a white lace gown with so many $20 bills folded into fans and pinned all over it that he looks like a green and white angel. Maria and I stand over his crib, taking out all the candy that we could buy with just one of those fans. But we know that God is watching and don't even dare to touch the money. In the kitchen, there is pernil roasting in the oven, the delicious smell filling the house, and Maria says, "You should just eat a little bit." But I am not allowed to eat pork. Instead, I wait for pastels to get passed around. Wait for the ones her mother has filled with chicken. For Jackie, me, hayajara. Wait for the moment when I can peel the pepper. Away from the crushed plantain covered meat, break off small pieces with my hand and let the pastelli melt in my mouth. My mother makes the best pastellis in Brooklyn, Maria says. And even though I've only eaten her mom's, I agree. Whenever there is a small smell of pernil and pastellis on the block, we know there is a celebration going on. And tonight, the party is at Maria's house. The music is loud, and the cake is big, and the pastellis that her mother had been making for 3 days are absolutely perfect. We can take food out to her stoop just as the grown-ups start dancing merengue. The women lifting their long dresses to show off their fast-moving feet, the men clapping and yelling, "Balia, Balia," until the living room floor disappears. When I ask Maria where Diana is, she says, "They're coming later. This part is just for my family." She pulls the crisp skin away from the pernil, eats the pork shoulder with rice and beans, and places balance on our laps, tall glasses of malata beside us. And for a long time, neither one of us says anything. "Yeah," she say, "this is only for us, the family." Curses. We are good kids. People tell my mother this all the time. Say you have the most polite children I've never heard of a bad word from them. And it is true. We say please and thank you. We speak softly. We look adults in the eye and ask, "How are you?" Bow our heads and pray. We don't know how to curse. When we try to put bad words together, they sound strange, like a baby's trying to talk and mixing up their words or their sounds. At home, we aren't allowed words like stupid or dumb or jerk or darn. We aren't allowed to say "I hate" or "I could die" or "you make me sick." We are not allowed to roll our eyes or look away when my mother is speaking to us. Once my brother said but and wasn't allowed to play outside after school for a week. And when we are with our friends and angry, we whisper, "You stupid dummy." Our friends laugh, then pew curses at us like bullets, bend their lips over their words like they were born speaking them. They coach us on, tell us to just say it, but we can't. Even when we try, the words get caught inside our throats as though our mother is standing there waiting, daring them to reach the air. Afros. When Robert comes over with her hair blown out into an afro, I beg my mother, the same hairstyle everyone in the neighborhood has one. And all of the Black people on Soul Train, even Michael Jackson and his brothers, are all allowed to wear their hair this way. Even though she says no to me, my mom spends a lot of the Saturday morning in her bedroom mirror picking her own hair into a huge black and beautiful dome, which is so completely 100% unfair. But she says this is the difference between being grown up and being a child. When she is not looking, I stick my tongue out at her. My sister catches me, says, and that's the difference between being a child and being a grown up. Like she's 20 years old, then rolls her eyes at me and goes back to reading. Graffiti. Your tag is your name written with spray paint, however you want it, wherever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be your real name, like Laco, who lives in Woodbine Street, on Woodbine Street. His real name is Orlando, but everyone calls him by his tag. So it's everywhere in Bushwick, black and red letters and crazy eyes inside the O's. Some kids climb to the top of buildings, hang over the edge, spray their names upside down from there. But me and Maria only know the ground, only know the factory on the corner with its newly painted bright pink wall, only know the way my heart jumps as I press the button, hear the hiss of paint, and watch Jack begin. Only know the sound of my uncle's voice stopping me before my name is a part of the history. Like the ones on the roofs and fire escapes and subway cars, I wish I could explain, wish I had the words to stop his anger, stop the force of him grabbing my hand when I knew how to say, just let me write everywhere. But my uncle keeps asking over and over again, what's wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? Don't you know people get arrested for this? There's just words, I whisper. They're not trying to hurt anybody. So again, this is Jacqueline wanting to express herself, and this time with spray paint. And they're having a fit about it. That's what Uncle's like, have you lost it? Are you... Okay, so now this is music. So each morning the radio comes on at 7 o'clock. Sometimes Michael Jackson is singing that ABC, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. And Sly and the Family Songs are thanking us for letting them be themselves. Sometimes it's slower music, the 5 Star Streps telling us things are going to get easier. Things are gonna get easier. Okay, and the Holly singing, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. So on we go. My mother lets us choose the music that we listen to, as long as the word funk doesn't appear anywhere in the song. But the summer, I am 10. Funk is in every single song that comes on the cool Black radio station. So our mother makes us listen to the white ones. All afternoon, corny people sing about Colorado, about everything being beautiful, about how we've only just begun. My sister falls in love with the singers, but I sneak off to Maria's house. We're safe inside her room with a pink shack carpet and bunk beds. We can comb our doll's hair and sing along with Ohio players, say he's the funkiest, worm in the world. We can dance the funky chicken, tell imaginary intruders to get the funk out. And our faces say the word so hard and so loud and so many times it becomes something different to us, something silly. We just laugh just thinking about it. Funky, funky, funky. We sing again and again until the words just come out, not connecting to anything, good or bad, right or wrong. So I kind of want to stop. Not that I'm going to stop reading or anything, but I just wanted to say something. So it sounds like Jacqueline's mother wanted to give her children, a better life. So her mother came from the South where they had slavery and they were not supposed to, and people were still slaves. And so she did not want her children to grow up in the South and like live there. Like her plan was to get them out of the South, which is why she moved north. And she ended up having her children stay in the South with her mom for a little while, for about 5 years or so, before they were able to move up north with her. So she got settled up north and everything. So she always wanted better for her children. And she didn't want her children to use the word funk. She didn't want them to use that, along with many other words like ain't, A-I-N-T, apostrophe T, ain't. She didn't want them using that word either. And she ended up turning off the music that had the word funk in it and had them listen to the white ones. So I just wanted to point that out. Even the games that they had, she just wanted them to be free. She didn't want them to have the slavery mentality. She didn't want them to use the improper grammar. She wanted to give them a better life. She wanted to put her children in an environment where they would be able to have many opportunities to make a difference in the world and to be something, contribute to the world, do something. And she did the best she knew to do. And just like her mother wouldn't let the kids listen to the cool Black radio station, I also separated myself from the cool Black radio station. So people like Beyonce and Drake, all those people, R&B, that culture, rap, like I am not a part of that. I switched over to Christianity. It was gospel, and I listen to gospel from time to time, but I'm mostly into like Christianity. I'm still learning the culture a little bit, and I feel like I'm getting way off topic, but I just wanted to like point that out. And you just want better. And it's funny because like once you get to the other side, you kind of start to see like, well, maybe this person isn't perfect after all. Oh, well, maybe they do have flaws after all. But I still commend them, like, for those that try and you mess up, that's one thing. And then you have those who like might want to cover it up, like to live like two different lives. Like that's, I'm not really sure what I'm saying right now. We just want better. You want to live your best life. And why do we do that though? Like, why do we feel like Like, why isn't your best life right now? Like, why do we feel like we're reaching for something else? Like, we want something better. Like, what are you reaching for? Like, why is it important for you to get there? Like, what are you going to do when you get there? If you get there, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense or not. Yeah, like, what are you reaching for? I feel like I need to blow my nose. I'm sorry. I think I'm going to have to do that and then come back. If I could pause this, I would, but I don't know how. So I'm just going to have to walk away. Excuse me. Hi. Thank you. I tried to hurry as fast as I could. But what are you, like, what are you reaching for? And that's like me, like striving to be like this really, really good person. And I know I was like motivated. I wanted to be Christian. I didn't want like 3 baby daddies. And I didn't want to die at 25. I didn't want to be on drugs. So I was like, oh my gosh, I better get it together. And so I went to college, and I'm in college now, and I'm going to be graduating. May 22nd is when I have commencement. Woo! So I'm excited. That's coming really soon. That's 2021. So look out. I'll be posting pictures. I'm very proud of myself. And I have a long way to go. So it's with an associate's degree. But what are we like? What are we reaching for? Like, why do we want this perfection? Is it praise? Like, even me wanting to be perfect, no flaws, no error, just reach a point of perfection. And all I want you to see is a perfect person with no flaws, no failures. So I'm talking, I had a viewer come on and then they went off. Yeah. What is it that we're looking for? What is it that we're reaching for? Yeah. I'm like way off. I just wanted to say that. Just take a break, talk a little bit. But really, like, what happens when you get there? Like, will you just look for something else? I feel like I'm rambling a little. You want to grow. Like, I want to see myself grow. Do something that I thought I could never do. Like, why does that make us? I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I got off track a little bit. All right. So turn the page. You guys, I'm almost done with this book, so bear with me, please. Actually, I do have a lot more to read. All right. So Rikers Island. When the phone call comes in the middle of the night, it wasn't to tell us someone has died. It's Robert calling from the prison called Rikers Island. Even from my half asleep place, I could hear my mother taking a heavy breath, whispering, I knew this was coming. Robert, I knew you weren't doing right. In the morning, we eat our cereal in silence as our mother tells us that our uncle won't be around for a while. When we ask where he's gone, she says jail. When we ask why, she says it doesn't matter. We love him. That's all we need to know and keep remembering. Robert walked the wide road, she says, and now he's paying for it. Witnesses believe there's a wide road and a narrow road. To be good in the eyes of God is to walk the narrow one. Live a good life, pray, do what is right. On the wide road, there is every kind of bad thing anyone can imagine. I imagine my uncle doing his smooth dance steps down the wide road, smiling as the music plays loud. I imagine him laughing, pressing quartz into our palms, pulling presents from us from his bag, thick gold bracelet flashing at his wrist. Where did you get this? My mother asked, her face tight. It doesn't matter, my uncle answered. Y'all know I love you. You doing the right thing, Robert, my mother wanted to know. Yes, my uncle said, I promise you. It rains all day. We sit around the house waiting for the sun to come out so we can go outside. Dell reads in the corner of our room. I pull out my beat up composition notebook. Try to write another butterfly poem. Nothing comes out. The page looks like a day, wrinkled and empty. Like the day, wrinkled and empty, no longer promising anyone anything. Moving upstate. From Rikers Island, my uncle is sent to a prison upstate. We can visit. We don't know what he looked like, how much he'll have changed. And because our mother warns us not to, I tell anyone he's in jail. I don't tell anyone he's in jail. When my friends ask, I say he moved upstate. We're going to visit him soon. And he lives in a big house, I say, with a big yard and everything. But the missing settles inside me. Every time James Brown comes on the radio, I see Robert dancing. Every time the commercial from Christy Dolls come on, I think how I almost got one. He's my favorite uncle, I say. He's our only uncle, my sister says, then goes back to reading. On the bus to Dannemora. We board the bus on when the sun is just kissing the sky, darkened like a cape that we wear for hours, curled into it and back to sleep from somewhere above us. The OJs are singing, telling people all over the world to join hands to start a love train. The song rocks me gently into and out of dreaming. And in the dream, a train filled with love goes on and on. So I just want to sing a little bit of that. People all over the world, join hands, start a love train, love train. People all over the world, join hands, start a love train, love train. And the story that begins from the song, the bus is no longer a bus, and we are no longer going to Dannemora. But there is food and laughter and the music. The girl telling the story is me, but not me at the same time watching all of this, writing it down as fast as she can, singing along with the OJs, asking everyone to let this train keep on riding on through. And it's the story of the whole train filled with love and how the people on it aren't in prison, but are free to dance and sing and hug their families whenever they want. On the bus, some of the people are sleeping. Others are staring out the window or talking softly. Even the children are quiet. Maybe each of them is thinking their own dreams of daddies and uncles, brothers and cousins. One day being free to come on board. Please don't miss this train at the station, because if you miss it, I feel sorry for you. Too good. The bus moves slow out of the city until we can see the mountains, and above that, so much blue sky, passing the mountains, passing the sea, passing the heavens. That's soon where I will be. A song comes to me quickly, the words moving through my brain and out of my mouth in a whisper. But still, my sister hears. Ask who taught it to me. I just made it up, I say. No, you don't. No, you didn't. She says back, it's too good. Someone taught that to you. I don't say anything back. Just look out the window and smile. Too good. I'm thinking, the stuff I make up is too good. Dannemora. At the gate of the prison, guards glare at us, then slowly allow us in. My big brother is afraid. He looks up at the barbed wire, puts his hand in his pockets. I know he wishes he was home with his chemistry set. I know he wants to be anywhere but here. Nothing but stone and a big building that goes so far up and so far back, forth, we can't see where the beginning is and where it might end. Gray brick, small windows covered with wire. Who could see out there? The guards check our pockets, check our bags, make us walk through X-ray machines. My big brother holds out his arms, let the guards pat him from shoulder to ankle, checking for anything he might be hiding. He is Hope Austin Woodson, Woodson the second, part of a long line of Woodsons, doctors and lawyers and teachers. But as quickly as that, he can become a number. Like Robert Leon Irby is now so many numbers across the pocket of his prison uniform. It's hard not to keep looking at him, waiting for him to morph into letters, to spell out my uncle's name. Not Robert. When the guard brings our uncle to the waiting room that is filled with our families, waiting, he is not Robert. His afro has grown now. His afro is gone now, shaved to a black shadow on his perfect skull. His eyebrows are thicker than I remember, dipping down in a newer, shadier way. Even when he smiles, opens his arms to hug all of us at once. The bit I catch of it before juggling into his hug is a half smile caught and trapped inside a newer, sadder uncle. Mountain Song. Home from visiting Robert, I watched the mountains move past me, and slowly the mountain songs start coming again. More words this time, coming faster than I can sing them. Passing the mountains, passing the sea, passing the heavens, waiting for me. Look at the mountains, such a beautiful sea, and there's a promise that heaven is filled with glory. I sing the song over and over again, quietly into the window pane, my forehead pressed against the cool glass, tears coming down now, fast now. The song makes me think of Robert and Daddy in Greenville. And everything that feels far behind me now, everything that is going or already gone, I am thinking if I could hold on to the memory of this song, get home and write it down, then it will happen. I'll be a writer. I'll be able to hold on to each moment, each memory, everything. Poem on paper. When everyone in the family asks what I'm writing, I usually say nothing, or a story, or a poem. And only my mother says, just so long as you are not writing about our family. And I'm not. Well, not really. Up in the mountains, far from the sea, there is a place called Dannemora. The men are not free. Daddy. It is early spring when my grandmother sends for us. Warm enough to believe again, the food will come from the newly thawed earth. This is the weather. My mother says Daddy loved to garden in. We arrived not long before my grandfather is about to take his last breath. Breathless ourselves from our first ride in the airplane. I want to tell him all about it, how loud it was when the plane lifted into the sky, each of us leaning toward the window, watching New York grow small and speckled beneath us, how the meals arrived on tiny trays, some kind of fish, and none of us ate. I want to tell him how the stewardess gave us wings to pin to our blouse and shirts and told Mama we're beautiful and we're brave, but my grandfather is sleeping. When we come to his bedside, open his eyes only to smile, turn so that my grandmother can press ice cubes against his lips. She tells us he needs rest now. That evening, he dies. On the day he is buried, my sister and I wear white dresses, the boys in white shirts and ties. We walk slowly through Nickeltown, a long parade of people who loved him, Hope, Dell, Roman, and me leading it. This is how we bury our dead, a silent parade through the streets, showing the world our sadness. Others who knew my grandfather joining in on the walk, children waving, grown-ups dabbing at their eyes. Ashes to ashes, we say to the gravesite. With each handful of dirt, we drop gently onto his lowering casket. We will see you in the by and by, we say. We will see you in the by and by. How to listen, number 7. Even the silence has a story to tell. Just listen. Listen. So this is part 5, and it is ready to change the world. After Greenville, number 2. After Daddy dies, my grandmother sells the house in Nickeltown, gives the brown chair to Miss Bell, Daddy's clothes to the brothers of the Kingdom Hall, the kitchen table and bright yellow chairs to her sister, Lucinda, in Fields Crest Village. After Daddy dies, my grandmother brings the bed our mother was born in to Brooklyn, unpacked her dresses in the small empty bedroom downstairs, puts her Bible, watchtowers, and awakes, a picture of Daddy on the little brown bookshelf. After Daddy dies, spurs blurs into summer. Then winter comes on too cold and fast, and my grandmother moves a chair to the living room window, watches the tree drop the last of its leaves. While the boys play skelly and spinning tops in the middle of our quiet Brooklyn street. After Daddy dies, I learned to jump double Dutch slowly. tripping again and again over my two big feet, counting 10, 20, 30, 40, deep into the winter until one afternoon, gravity releases me and my feet fly free and the ropes 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. As my grandmother watches me, both of our worlds change forever. Mimosa tree. A mimosa tree, green and thin limbed, pushes up through the snow. My grandmother brought the seeds with her from back home. Sometimes she pulls a chair to the window, looks down over the yard. The promise of glittering sidewalks feels a long time behind us now. No diamonds anywhere to be found. But some days, just after snow falls, the sun comes out and shines down on the promise of the tree back at home joining us here. Shines down over the bright white ground. And one of those days, so much light and warmth fills the room, and it's hard not to believe in a little bit of everything. Bubblegum cigarettes. You can buy a box of bubblegum cigarettes for a dime at the bodega around the corner. Sometimes Maria and I walk there, our fingers laced together, a nickel in each of our pockets. The bubble gum is pink with white paper wrapped around it. When you put it in your mouth and blow, the white puff comes out. You can really believe you're smoking. We talk with bubble gum cigarettes between our fingers, hold them in the air like movie stars on TV. We let them dangle from our mouths and look at each other through slitted eyes, then laugh at how grown up we can be, how beautiful. When my sister sees us pretending to smoke, she shakes her head. That's why Daddy died, she says. After that, me and Maria peeled off the paper, turned over the cigarettes into the regular bubble gum. After that, the game was over. What's left behind? You've got your daddy's easy way, my grandmother says to me, holding the picture of my grandfather in her hands. I watch you with your friends and see him all over again. Where will the wedding be? Way down yonder in the hollow tree. We look at the picture without talking. Sometimes I don't know the words for things, how to write down the feeling of knowing that every dying person leaves something behind. I got my grandfather's easy way. Maybe I know this when I'm laughing. Maybe I know it when I think of Daddy and feel he feels close enough to me to lay my head against his shoulder. I remember how he laughed. I tell my grandmother and she smiles and say, because you laugh just like him. 2 peas in a pod, you were. 2 peas in a pod, you were. The stories I tell. Every autumn, the teacher asks us to write about summer vacation and read it to the class. In Brooklyn, everybody goes south or to Puerto Rico or to their cousin's house in Queens. But after my grandmother moves to New York, we only go down south once for my Aunt Lucinda's funeral. After that, my grandmother says she's down with South, says it makes her too sad. But now when summer comes, our family gets on a plane, flies to Africa, Hawaii, Chicago for summer vacation. We went to Long Island to the beach. Everybody was fishing and everybody caught a lot of fish, even though no one has in my family has ever been to Long Island or fished or likes the ocean. Too deep, too scary. Still each autumn I write a story. In my writing, there is a stepfather now who lives in California but meets us wherever we go. There is a church, not a kingdom hall. There is a blue car, a dress, loose, unribboned hair. In my story, Our family is regular as air. 2 boys, 2 girls, sometimes a dog. Did that really happen? The kids in the class ask. Yeah, I say. If it didn't, how would I know what to write? How to listen. Do you remember? Someone's always asking, and someone always does. Faith, faith, and reason. Faith and reason. Everything happens for a reason, my mother says, then tells me how Kay believed in fate and destiny, everything that ever happened or was going to happen couldn't ever be avoided. The marchers down south didn't just up and start their marching. It was part of a longer, bigger plan, but maybe belonged to God. My mother tells me that this, as we fold laundry, white towels separated from the colored ones, each a threat to the other. And I remember the time I spilled bleach on a blue towel, dotting it forever, the pale pink towel a memory. And when it was washed with a red one, maybe there is something, after all, to the way some people want to remain, each to its own kind. But in me, maybe everything will fade to gray, even all of us coming to Brooklyn. My mother says, wasn't some accident. And I can't help thinking of the birds here, how they disappear in the wintertime, heading south for food and warmth and shelter, heading south to stay alive, passing us on the way. No accidents, my mother says, just fate and faith and reason. When I ask my mother what she believes in, she stops, mindfold, and looks out the black window. Autumn. It's full on here, and the sky is bright blue. I guess I believe in right now, she says, and the resurrection, and Brooklyn, and the 4 of you. What if? Maria's mother never left Baymont, Puerto Rico, and my mother never left Greenville. What if no one ever walked the greasy field that are now Madison Street and said, let's put some houses here? What if the people in Maria's building didn't sell 1279 Madison Street to Maria's parents, or our landlords told my mom that he couldn't rent 1283 to someone who already had 4 children? What if the park with the swing wasn't right across the Knickerbocker Avenue? What if Maria hadn't walked out of her building one day and said, my name is Maria, but my mom calls me Goo? What if I had laughed instead of saying, you are lucky. I wish I had a nickname too. You want to go to the park sometime? What if she didn't have a sister and 2 brothers, and I didn't have a sister and 2 brothers, and her dad didn't teach us to box, and her mother didn't cook such good food? I can't even imagine any of it, Maria says. Nope, I say, neither can I. Bushwick history lesson. Before German, mothers wrapped scarves around their heads, kissed their own mothers goodbye, and headed across the world to Bushwick. Before the Italian fathers sailed across the ocean for the dream of America and found themselves in Bushwick. Before Dominican daughters Don Casanera dressed and walked proudly down Bushwick Avenue. Before young brown boys in cut-off shorts spun their first tops and played their first games of Skelly on Bushwick streets. Before any of that, this place was called Bashwick, settled by the Dutch, and Frankish, Frankisus, Frankisus, the Negro, the former slave who bought his freedom. And all of New York was called New Amsterdam, run by a man named Peter Stuyvesant. There were slaves here. Those who could afford to own their freedom lived on the other side of the wall, and now that place is called Wall Street. When my teacher says, "So write down what all of this means to you," our heads bend over our notebooks, the whole class silent, the whole class belonging somewhere, Bushwick. I didn't just appear one day. I didn't just wake up and know how to write my name. I kept writing, knowing now that I was a long time coming. How to listen, number 9. Under the back porch, there's an alone place I go to, writing all I've heard. The Promised Land. When my uncle gets out of jail, he isn't just my uncle anymore. He is Robert the Muslim and wears a small black kufi on his head. And even though we know witnesses are the chosen ones, we listen to the stories he tells about a man named Muhammad and a holy place called Mecca and the strength of all the Black people. We sit in a circle around him, his hands moving slow through the air, his voice clamor and quieter than it was before he went away. When he pulls out a small rug to pray on, I kneel beside him, wanting to see his Mecca, wanting to know the place he calls the Promised Land. Look with your heart and your head, he tells me, his own head bowed. It's out there in front of you. You'll know when you get there. Power to the people. On TV screen, a woman named Angela Davis is telling us there's a revolution going on and that it is time for Black people to defend themselves. So Maria and I walk through the streets, our fists raised in the air, Angela Davis style. We read about her in the daily news, run to the television each time she's interviewed. She is beautiful and powerful and has my sap gap tooth smiled. We dream of running away to California to join the Black Panthers, the organization Angela is a part of. She is not afraid, she says, to die for what she believes in, but doesn't plan to die without a fight. The FBI says Angela Davis is one of America's most wanted. Already, there are so many things I don't understand. Why someone would have to die or even fight for what they believe in. Why the cops would want someone who is trying to change the world in jail. We are not afraid to die, Maria and I shout, fists high, for what we believe in. Both of us know we'd rather keep believing and live. Say it loud. My mother tells us the Black Panthers are doing all kinds of stuff to make the world a better place for Black children. In Oakland, they started a free breakfast program so that poor kids can have a meal before starting their school day. Pancakes, toast, eggs, fruit. We watch the kids eat happily, sing songs and how proud they are to be Black. We sing the song along with them, stand on the base of lampposts and scream, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, until my mother hollers from the window, get down before you break your neck. I don't understand the revolution in Bushwick. There's a street we can't cross until Wyckoff Avenue, called Wyckoff Avenue. White people live on the other side. Once a boy from my block got beat up for walking over there. Once there were 4 white families on our block, but they all moved away except for the old lady who lives there by the tree. Some days she brings out cookies, tells us stories of the old neighborhood when everyone was German or Irish, and even some Italians down by Woodson Avenue. All kinds of people, she says. And the cookies are too good for me to say, except us. Everyone knows where they belong here. It's not Greenville, but it's not Diamond Sidewalk either. I still don't know what it is that would make people want to get along. Maybe no one does. Angela Davis smiles, gap-toothed and beautiful, raises her fist in the air and says, power to the people, looks out from the television directly into my eyes. Maybe Mecca. There is a teenager on our block with one arm missing. We call him Lefty, and he tells us he lost his arm in Vietnam. That's a war, he says. Y'all lucky to be too young to go. It doesn't hurt anymore, he tells us when we gather around him. But his eyes are sad eyes. And some days he walks around the block, maybe 100 times without saying anything to anyone. When we call, hey, Lefty, he doesn't even look our way. Some evenings I kneel toward Mecca with my uncle. Maybe Mecca is the place Lefty goes to in his mind. When the memory of losing his arm becomes too much, maybe Mecca is good memories, presents and stories and poetry and eros, con polio, and family and friends. Maybe Mecca is the place everyone is looking for. It's out there in front of you, my uncle says. I know I'll know it when I get there. The revolution. Don't wait for school to teach you, my uncle says, about the revolution. It's happening in the streets. He's been out of jail for more than a year now, and his hair is an afro again, gently moving in the wind as we head to the park, him holding tight to my hand when we are not crossing Knickerbocker Avenue, even now when I'm too old for hand holding and the like. The revolution is when Shirley Chisholm ran for president and the rest of the world tried to imagine a Black woman in the White House. When I hear the word revolution, I think of a carousel with all of those beautiful horses going around as though they'll never stop, and me choosing the purple one each time, climbing up onto it and reaching for the golden ring as soft music plays. The revolution is always going to happen. I want to write this down, that the revolution is like a merry-go-round, history always being made somewhere. And maybe for a short time, we are part of that history. And then ride stops and overturn is over. And our turn is over. As we walk slowly toward the park, where I can already see the big swing empty and waiting for me. And after I write it down, maybe I'll end it this way. My name is Jacqueline Woodson, and I am ready for the ride. How to listen, number 10. Write down what I think I know, and knowing will come. Just keep listening. A writer. You are a writer, Miss Bevo says, her gray eyes bright behind thin wire frames, her smile bigger than anything. So I smile back, happy to hear these words from a teacher's mouth. She is a feminist. She tells us the 35th grade hands bend into desk where our dictionaries wait to open yet another world to Miss Vivo's pauses. Watches our fingers fly. Webster has our answers. Equal rights. A boy named Andrew yells out, for women. My hands freeze as the thin white pages, like blacks. Miss Bevo, too, is part of a revolution. But right now, that revolution is so far away from me. This moment, this here, this right now is my teacher saying, you are a writer. As she holds the poem, I am just beginning, the first 4 lines, stolen from my sister. Black brothers, Black sisters, and all of them were great. No fear, no fight, but a willingness to fight. You can have them, Dale said when she saw, I don't want to be a poet. And then my own pencil moving late in the evening. In big fine houses lived the whites. In little old shacks lived the blacks. But the blacks were smart. In fear, they took no part. One of them was Martin, with a heart of gold. You are a writer, Miss Bevo says, holding my poem out to me. And standing in front of the class, taking my poem from her, my voice shakes as I recite the first line. Black brothers, Black sisters, and all of them were great. But my voice grows stronger with each word because more than anything else in the world, I want to believe her. Every wish, one dream. Every dandelion blown, each starlight, star bright. The first star I see tonight, my wish is always the same. Every fallen eyelash and first firefly of summer, the dream remains. What did you wish for? To be a writer. Every head's up penny found, and daydream and night dream. And even when people say it's a pipe dream, I want to be a writer. Every sunrise and sunset and song against a cold window pane. Passing the mountains, passing the seas. Every story read, every poem remembered. I loved my friend. And when I see birches bend to left and to right and nay, answer the child But these are the words of love. Every memory, foggy, went according, and he did ride. Bringing me closer and closer to my dream. The earth from far away. Every Saturday morning, we run downstairs to the television, just as the theme song from The Big Blue Marbles began. The four of us sing along. The earth's a big blue marble. When you see it from out there, then the camera is zooming in on that marble, the blue becoming water and the land, then land. The children in Africa and Texas and China and Spain and sometimes New York City. The world close enough to touch now, and children from all over right in our living room telling us stories. The sun and the moon declare our beauties very rare. The world, my world, like words. One, once, there was only the letter J, and my sister's hand wrapped around mine, guiding me, promising me infinity. This big blue marble of world and words and people and places. Inside my head and somewhere out there too, all of it, mine now, if I just listen and write it down. What I believe. I believe in God and evolution. I believe in the Bible and the Quran. I believe in Christmas and the New World. I believe that there is good in each of us, no matter who we are or what we believe in. I believe in the words of my grandfather. I believe in the city and the South, the past and the present. I believe in Black people and white people coming together. I believe in nonviolence and power to the people. I believe in my little brother's pale skin and my own dark brown. I believe in my sister's brilliance and the too easy books I love to read. I believe in my mother on a bus and Black people refusing to ride. I believe in good friends and good food. I believe in Johnny Pumps and jump ropes, Malcolm and Martin, Buckeyes and Birmingham, writing and listening, bad words and good words. I believe in Brooklyn. I believe in one day and someday that this perfect moment called now. Each world. When there are many worlds, you can choose the one you walk into each day. You can imagine yourself brilliant as your sister, slower, moving, quiet and thoughtful as your older brother, or filled up with the hiccuping joy and laughter of a baby in the family. You can imagine yourself a mother now, climbing onto a bus at nightfall, turning to wave goodbye to your children, watching the world of South Carolina disappear behind you. When there are many worlds, love can wrap itself around you. Say, don't cry. Say, you are as good as anyone. Say, keep remembering me. And you know, even as the world explodes around you, that you are loved. Each day, a new world open itself up, and all the worlds you are. Ohio and Greenville, Woodson and Irby, Gunner's child and Jack's daughter, Jehovah's Witness and non-believer, listener and writer, Jackie and Jacqueline gather into one world called you, where you decide what each world and each story and each ending will finally be. That is the end of the story. At the end here, we have an author's note, but that is all, folks. So you have you stuck it out, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for listening. This is the book. Thank you so much. Bye.